Namaste. Hello. Welcome wherever you are on this beautiful planet. It is great to be back for another trigger proof transmission. It's been a while, I have to admit. If you're new to this community, welcome. My name's Dr. Nima Rahmany, and I started this community about a year ago when the pandemic hit and I was in this state of lockdown here, apart away from my wife, who was living in Victoria at the time. I had just come back from holidays or a seminar, and I started this group, and because people were unraveling, and I wanted to create tools that helped you regulate yourself during a stressful pandemic, during a very difficult time. At the time, I remember showing up twice a day, once at 11 a.m. and once at 7 p.m., to give tools that helped people who are normally, during a really difficult time, going through a crisis of change and uncertainty, and all of the past traumas, all of our stories about uncertainty, all of our stories about authority, all of our stories within our relationships and our incongruencies and misalignments and misattunements and breakdowns, they literally all started bubbling to the surface, and I could see that the world was starting to unravel. And luckily, uh, I had been dedicating my life to training myself and my community how to become more resilient to stress during a crisis. Wow. What crises? Well, people, if you're new to this community, my name's Dr. Nima Rahmany, and I am an interpersonal trauma specialist that started off in my former life as a chiropractor, curious about that mind-body connection, wondering why is it that some patients got better, no problem, I could help them, and others, no matter what, were actually untreatable, unhelpable. And I realized that those people that were unhelpable had an unconscious part of them that was tied into the suffering. There's an unconscious part of them that was tied into the suffering, usually at the hands of old attachment wounds. And so, as I worked on those within myself, going through crisis of divorce, career change, existential crisis, midlife crisis, literally over the last 10 years, if you had all of the top stressful events except for death of a spouse, death of a child, I can't claim to experience that level of grief and trauma. So I'm not even going to try to pretend like you might have gone through something way worse on that list. So I'm just sharing from my perspective. Over 10 years, it was as though I was going through one crisis after another, ironically helping people heal at the same time, whereas my twin brother, who are twins, pretty identical. We're not identical twins, but we had, similar parents. We had the same parents. So why did he not have the same challenges within himself and with relationships that I did? He has challenges, but they're completely different, and relationships wasn't a problem. But for me, traditionally it was. So years ago, after my last relationship ended, my divorce back in 2011, and several failed relationships after another, that last one had me kind of blowing up everything. It blew up everything. It gave me like this big, massive identity crisis, going, what the fuck just happened? How did I get to this level of unconsciousness? Surely I can't blame her for this, because this has been a pattern again and again and again. And maybe if I've been getting the same type of feedback again and again from people, from the people that I've been dating, and my ego just didn't really want to see it. It was like, maybe I got to kind of do some uncomfortable work, which I'm about to talk to you about in a moment. It's not comfortable. It's not pleasant. However, it was the one thing that liberated me from my unconscious motives to repeat patterns in relationships that I had no idea I was doing, but everybody else could see it. That's the problem about our shadow, isn't it? You totally know what's going on with your mom's shadow, your dad's dark passenger shadow, what I like to call dark passenger because I'm a fan of Dexter. Um, you have no problem. We have no problem seeing that in other people, but looking at ourselves is very painful. And what we do is we don't want to look at ourselves, so we project externally. And so what's happening on this internal landscape inside our bodies that's so uncomfortable from those unresolved conflicts, because of our avoidance of looking at them inside, we can't run away from them. So what happens is, on the outside world, we start to experience things that are indicative of what's happening in the projector inside our bodies. This unconscious projector recreating things. Now, when I say this, it triggers a lot of people because the first thing that I hear is, are you saying it's my fault that I had all these terrible things happen in my relationships? And this group has gotten close to 5,000 people now. And wow. So this conversation is becoming very popular about attachment styles, and I really want to demystify it with you on this Facebook Live. So by the end of this, you're going to understand it from a completely different perspective that you're probably not hearing a lot. And so essentially, we then unconsciously create these patterns through no fault of our own. So it's not about blame. You're saying it's my fault. We create them through no fault of our own. But then, like in my situation, I had to look and go, okay, this wasn't my fault, but why was this same experience happening no matter who I was with? There was something blind within myself, and that's why we need guides. I sure as fuck didn't do this alone, because I don't want to look at my blind spots. I don't want to face my shadows. It's like weight loss. It's like, can you help my mother? I get this message on my DM. Can you help my mother? Is this going to help my mother with depression? My response to her was, you can't fix somebody who doesn't want to be fixed. I said it. So I just imagine this daughter who's fed up with her mother having depression, wants to help, and is like, I've just got to research stuff. So they come across my work. She asks a very innocent question and did not get the response that she was wanting. What she was wanting was for me to say, absolutely, this could totally help your mother. This work will completely transform her life and you won't recognize her. The truth is, it will. But the difference is, not everybody's ready to do this. In fact, if you're listening to this, chances are you're of the 90% who's not ready to actually face their shadows. There's too many barriers. There's too many obstacles. There's time, there's money, there's space, there's trust. The truth is that we're just afraid of facing our shadows. So, of course, when you do, the 10% who actually do, some of you kind of watch these videos and you're lurking and going, oh, this is very entertaining, but this video is not going to cut it for you to actually solve the root cause of your attachment wounds. Just going, oh, okay, thanks, I know what it is now, and then not actually taking action steps towards healing will keep you stuck in the same pattern. Why? Because I do this work and I still don't enjoy well, I've now kind of learned to enjoy it, but it's painful. The truth is very painful. It makes you want to barf. It brings up all of these sensations within you. It's like weight loss, when you have, changed your lifestyle and lost 20 pounds, it wasn't because your mom told you to do it. It wasn't because your daughter told you to do it. So my response to this daughter was, instead of rescuing her, this isn't going to help. You can't this is what I messaged her. I said, you can't rescue other people. They have to want to do it for themselves. If she's interested, here's my Facebook group. Come and learn, because she's got to actually, you can't feed them unless they're hungry. Her response to me was, judging by your response, I can tell that this isn't the place for my mom. And I was like, bingo. You got that right. So lately, how I know that I've been, this work has really started taking off, like in a big way, is now we interview people before they come into our workshops, and we disqualify some people right off the bat. We were like, no, this isn't for you. This might not be the right place for you. I'll even say comments in the group where people will say stuff. Are you saying it's my fault? You know, with lots of exclamation marks, which let me know that big emotions are happening and that you're really offended by what I'm saying. You'll let me know, and I'll be like, you know what? I don't think this place is the right fit for you. I'm not saying you don't belong. It's not a you don't belong. I'm just saying not everybody's meant to be compatible. This work is completely different. This work involves going to really uncomfortable places. That's not all about love and light. In fact, it's quite the opposite. And one of my pet peeves is when people have been doing their attachment style quiz and they're like, spot on, anxious, spot on, avoidant, spot on. It's like there's this deep, and which I understand, there's this deep sense of validation that happens when people find out what their attachment styles are. And it's like, oh my gosh, thanks. Now I got to fix myself. I got to work on myself. And then I'm just kind of scratching my head going, how on earth are you going to do that? Do you have any idea what's supposed to happen? Do you have any idea what the steps are in order to resolve this? I'm here to tell you what your attachment style is. Your attachment style is the neurological, it's a neurological network. That's what your attachment style is. You have a neurological network of patterns that have been laid down in your nervous system since childhood. And these patterns were not started by you. You are at the effect of the patterns of your parents. So if you ask yourself these questions, what were my religious beliefs and idealisms at the time? What was I trained and conditioned to think was good or bad? Did I have a strict authoritarian type of, like you're gonna my way or the highway? Or did you not have guidance or whatever? Or did you know that the mother that showed up to say hello and tuck you into bed was going to be a consistent mother that was going to wake up and take care of you? Or did you go through periods of time where your parents were such a shit show that they had no idea how to meet even your physical needs? Heat, food. Did you go to bed hungry? Did you have the experience where your parents were engaged, embodied, able to meet your emotional needs and mirror and empathize with you and validate your experience? Or were you like many who were raised in spare the rod, spoil the child? Now, your attachment style is your neurological foundation of how you bonded with your primary caregivers. You either didn't have your needs met and had to ultimately constantly feel like you were performing, pleasing, helping in order to feel worthy of love. Boom. Then you would be adopting the anxious attachment style, that you felt a state of distress when the primary caregiver went away because you didn't know when she was coming back, he was coming back. You didn't know what version of them would come back. So this hypervigilant fear of abandonment and overperforming and losing yourself and preoccupied with the feelings of the other forms the foundation of your attachment style if you're anxious. Now, if you had the opposite experience, you had another experience where your primary caregivers weren't consistent, they didn't meet your emotional needs, only validated you and gave you pats on the back when you were given, when you performed, when you did well, and it was very performance-based. This was in my situation. Then you learned how to become an island. You learned that soothing your own emotions your emotional needs weren't going to get met by your caregivers. So you kind of form a little island and kind of want space to process your own emotions, right? And ironically, the avoidant, then you become the avoidant attached. The avoidant and the anxious attached are like a moth to a flame. Then there's the disorganized, which is this deep need to connect and bond, but the inconsistency of the primary caregivers and the fact that sometimes they were harmful has this feeling of a need for mom and dad, but a deep paralyzing fear of a lack of safety in wanting them. So it's this confusion where you have your gas pedal going and your brake going at the same time, where you're stuck in a freeze. You get into freeze response when you get triggered, but you don't move, but there's an incredible amount of distress going on inside of your body. This is what we would call the disorganized, or the fearful avoidant. So what do you do? What does all this mean? I'm here to tell you that your attachment style is not fixed. It doesn't mean that you're doomed. In fact, it means very little, except as just a window and a diagnostic, and go, I see how I'm behaving, and now I'm committed to completely behaving differently, to showing up feeling safe and secure in a relationship, to showing up feeling confident, to showing up being able to express my needs, to showing up being able to hold space for the other person's emotions, and not, and have my own individuality. In other words, I want to show up being able to have me and have you too, right? Not that if I have you, then I lose me. I want to be able to have me and have you too. This proximity and distancing, there's stress-free getting together and leaving apart. This sense of kind of goodness, this nourishment, this safety within one another. Every one of us, please write this down, every one of us have this as our birthright. We are born with this as our birthright. But unfortunately, the experiences you've gone through based on the attachment style of your parents and their unresolved wounds get downloaded onto you. It's like this. Here's where we are. So if you saw you did a quiz and that it exposed you to what that is, whether you're secure, you're anxious, disorganized, avoidant, it doesn't matter. It's just a snapshot. It's not your reality that you're doomed to forever. Not at all. Now, people surprised me when I put out this quiz. People were like, oh, thank you. Got to go work on myself. And not really knowing what that means. And so I decided to do this training today to give you the steps of what, if you're really wanting to climb that mountain towards security. Essentially what it means, instead of thinking that you're doomed with an attachment style, I want you to start looking at it completely differently. What you're really wanting to know is, can I, given my current attachment style, actually have a healthy, secure relationship? Is it even possible for somebody like me? After everything that I've been through, I haven't, some of our clients, they haven't dated in 20 years. One of the clients that just began our intimacy accelerator, like, why do you want to start working on it? Well, I haven't had a date in 20 years. Okay. In fact, a lot of people who start this process are either going through a breakup, or they're still wounded from a breakup, and they still feel a little bit fucked up from that last breakup, and they're wondering, am I going to bring some of my shit into this? I want to actually clean that slate, and I realize this is the work to do. And some are in relationships. They've been in limbo for 10 years, 15 years, 30 years, some in limbo, and finally are wanting to make a kind of like a loving break. And The cool part about what we do here, and when you dedicate yourself to becoming trigger proof, to learning how to dance with that dark passenger, all of those problems that I just shared completely vanish. Because what we do is we get everybody to ask different questions. Instead of going, oh, you know, oh, I found it, thanks. I guess is what I have to do. I guess I'll stay single. Oh, well. No, you're not doomed. The question you want to really start to ask is, can I, from where I am, develop a secure relationship? Or if I am secure, can I really create deeper intimacy in the relationship that I have? And the answer is absolutely, because it doesn't have anything to do with your attachment style. To create relationships that you love, that you feel nourished in, you actually have to change and recreate your relationship with yourself, which involves parts of you that you've judged, abandoned, denied, and are ashamed of. The parts of you, the insignificant parts of you, the parts of you that you feel are just not good enough, the parts of you that you've had to really cover up and pretend are not there, and put out a different version of you, a watered down version of you, a weakened version of you, a less than optimal version of you, because you're ashamed of the real you. This is the only way. This is your dark passenger. And without learning how to dance with that shadow I call the dark passenger, because I'm a fan of Dexter, it's these parts of us that we don't really, we don't want anybody to know about. And here's the other part. It's parts of us that we can't really see either. That's why a book isn't going to solve it for you. It's going to help. I love books. I recommend everybody to go get Dr. Russell Kennedy's book, because it illustrates what we actually do and guide people through. So basically your experience with attachment styles is not very you're not alone in it, but there are 4 primary wounds hidden in your shadows that you must commit to healing. And I'm going to go over those 4 wounds right now. If you want to master yourself, master your body, master the anxiety in your body, because anxiety is usually, what I've observed, is these 4 wounds unaddressed. Let me say that again. Anxiety is a version of these wounds that are unaddressed. And you can actually heal your anxiety. I actually healed my anxiety by addressing these 4 wounds and integrating those darker parts of myself that I have abandoned so that I could, have people like me, or avoid looking stupid, or make people think that I'm a really good person. You know what I mean? Those things. And there's no freedom in hiding from those things. And so for you to heal, the relationship with you involves you looking at those things that you don't want to look at, that aren't available in a podcast. Even a video like this, a YouTube video or this Facebook Live, it's not going to address it for you. You must look and feel things look at things that you probably can't even see. That's why they call it your shadows. So to uncover these shadow emotions that you've been running away from, that need your attention if you want to have a secure relationship, pay attention to where you've been hiding these, not only in your body, but in your life. What behaviors are you running to avoid these feelings? Number 1, rejection. The first wound that's hidden in your shadows that you must address is rejection. Who doesn't have that experience? Whether you got dumped by a boyfriend, girlfriend, you liked somebody, they didn't like you back, or a father that left, right? This sense of rejection from your parents, even. Maybe you're like me, black sheep. I constantly having this experience that my reality of my preferences were rejected from my parents, right? It brings up these feelings of unworthiness. And when we don't address them at the root, they will unconsciously cause us to show up insecure in relationships. This is where our insecurity comes from. And this is what the foundation of our attachment wounds, our insecure attachment wounds, insecure avoidant. You know, you'll be like, as an avoidant, well, I can't stand rejection, so guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to push you away first. I'm going to, as soon as a problem comes, I'm not going to address it. It's too uncomfortable to risk rejection. So I'm going to push you away. Or another thing that I'm going to do, another strategy that my ego uses to avoid rejection is I might date many women at the same time so that if one rejects me, then the next one, I have the next one there so I don't have to deal with that rejection. Does that make sense? So rejection is the first one. The second one is abandonment. The second wound that's hidden in your shadows is abandonment. So this sense of loneliness that we have deep in our kind of psyche that is so painful that in my situation, I did anything and everything to avoid it. I stayed in a long-term relationship that was in limbo. The reason why I was in limbo was because, not because I loved her and I wanted to be with her. Hell no. Fuck, I never want to, like, I just cringe at the thought. But being with that was better to me than to feel loneliness. Why? Because that was an unresolved attachment wound of abandonment that I experienced at the age of 2, that my brother didn't. When my brother and my mother came to Canada as a 2-year-old, for 3 months, I was without the feminine. So deep in my core, in my psyche, in my being, in my unconscious, was this fear of abandonment. So without resolving that, I was showing up in relationships with people that I really wouldn't ever dream of going the distance with, but it was better than being alone because of my fear of abandonment. And you might have had the experience of a not belonging to a tribe or a group, and this fear of loneliness that comes from that. So you might be carrying this feeling of abandonment, of not belonging, deep in your psyche. And if it's hidden in your shadows, don't be surprised that you're going to show up anxiously attached, needy, tolerating abusive behavior, because, hey, it's better than abandonment and loneliness, right? Number 3 is the feeling hidden in your shadows, is the wound that's hidden, is betrayal. Betrayal is when you had with your parents experiences of unfulfilled promises. Unfortunately, what that does is that it creates this sense of not trusting in love. And I see this constantly. People messaging me and they're ready to sign up for one of my things. All of a sudden, they freak out and they're like, wait, is this a scam? And I see this again and again and again. Are you real? Is this a scam? Is this some sort of an internet scam? And I'm like, wow, that is betrayal stuck in your body because you think somebody who you've been following for a fucking year when it comes, and it was a referral from a friend who's had a great experience, and then you turn around in the last minute, oh my God, is this real? I want a refund. Like, okay. It's like, I get what's happening. At first I was like, what the fuck? Like, that brought up my mistrust wounds where I had to prove myself to my mother. It was like, oh, these Karens, what's up with them? I was playing victim to these people who would just freak out over that. And then I realized, wow, betrayal trauma, it's in all of us. And it's totally okay that it is. It's just you haven't yet learned how to address it and integrate it. If you don't, you show up with these patterns of not trusting in relationships. And it comes also, you experience, without healing this, you experience the unworthiness of receiving. Unworthiness of receiving. And you say you want love, but then when it comes to you, you push it away because you don't feel worthy of receiving it, you know? And then here's the other bitch of it all. You then see other people who have love, and then you feel this terrible envy. You're like, oh, envy, and then unworthy, and oh, I wish I had it, but I'm not deserving of it because of these betrayal wounds that have repeated throughout. And there's only one way to heal from this. If you don't, you're going to consistently experience these same patterns in your attachment wounds. The way you heal it is to go back to those early attachment wounds, and through a process of integration, which I've come up with, this is what we do at our overview experience, you actually integrate it and learn the practices. It's a self-directed thing. Nobody could do this for you. This is the cool part about the work we do, is that you're the hero. I'm not the guru or guide. I'm the teacher that teaches how to expand capacity in your nervous system so that you can feel those emotions that you've been avoiding because they're so damn painful. Number 3 was betrayal. Rejection, abandonment, betrayal. Number 4 is injustice. If you had the experience growing up where you had cold, authoritarian parents, right? We see this, people who were raised in communism. We have Eastern Bloc clients who were raised by parents that came from Eastern Bloc and communism, or fundamentalist religion. Woo boy, right? You then experience this sense of rigidness, and perfectionism is stuck in your body. It's like a wound. And also this deep sense of anger towards authority. We see this a lot in our clients. Sometimes they come in very defiant during our group calls and our events. They show up late. They deliberately, each and every time, they show up late. They don't do their work. Like, people sign up, they invest, and then they show up this way. And at first I was pissed. I was like, why would you do this? Like you hired me to help you. But then all of a sudden I realized I am actually a projection of their authoritarian that they hate. So at every single one of my, events, there are students of ours that, I see it as like, they're trying to send me a message that, Nima, you're not my fucking authority. And now I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not your authority. I'm just your guide. That totally makes sense. And that all comes from this feeling of injustice and having like strict, rigid authoritarian figures, having this perfectionism. So why I'm saying this, why I'm sharing this, is because you got to be willing to feel it to heal it. You got to be willing to confront it. You got to be willing to admit it to shift it. Rejection, abandonment, betrayal, and injustice are deep wounds in our unconscious, in our shadows, that if we don't address, then these attachment styles will continually progress, and you will continue the patterns, and then you'll pass it down to the next generation. And the reason why I do this work is I stand for healed families, healed family dynamics. When you stop pointing the finger and putting blame and responsibility on other people, and then turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to take this responsibility to, like, I know that my life situation isn't ideal. I know that I'm up against a lot of things. I know that the way that I was treated isn't fair. But instead of looking outward, I'm going to take responsibility and look inward. I'm going to stop rescuing other people. I'm going to stop saying, oh, you know what, maybe can you help my daughter? Can you help my brother? Can you help so-and-so? So that I go, is your brother or daughter, are they reaching out and following my content because they're inspired? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, I don't want to see them, because this is like weight loss. You can't tell them to lose weight. They have to call me and go, fuck, you trigger the hell out of me. It really bothers me what you say because of the language you use, Nima, because you're so blunt and assumptive and direct and da-da-da-da-da. But fuck, I get it. You trigger me. And I instead of running from you and judging you, I've decided I want to maybe see what's there. And I'm open to facing my shadows of rejection, abandonment, betrayal, and injustice, and not taking the blame for those things that happened that caused me to feel that way, because none of it was my fault. None of it was your fault. However, I don't want you to mistake blame for capability. Instead of blame, I want you to say, I'm capable of healing from those. And without healing those, your attachment style is pretty much going to, in high probability, remain the same for the rest of your life. And then you won't be able to have the most amazing experience that life has to offer, which is what? Amazing relationships, a relationship where you feel safe and secure. I was 43 years old before I dedicated deeper into this work, into embodying the truth, into kind of aligned, congruent leadership, rather than kind of put on some sort of a show, the Dr. Nima show, which I used to do. It really did well. It had a good run. And now it's really about helping people override the uncomfortable parts about themselves, who are willing to kind of override their egoic stories, go past the story and now rewrite a new one and embrace all those shadow parts of themselves that they were blaming and putting, externally. So if this interests you and you're actually committed to the process, I would love for you to join us at our next overview experience. And this is where actually some of you are already set up, and I'm really looking forward to this, because what we're doing in this event is we're actually going to uncover and help you get complete with those 4 core wounds. With those 4 wounds, or whichever one that you're noticing has been most prevalent. And together, as a community, we are going to help heal those within ourselves. Why? Well, because when you do, everything changes with the relationship with yourself. You start to develop security. You start to have the ability to say no. You start to sleep better. You feel safer in your body. 3 of my clients over the last year have been able to conceive children, which was one of their goals before they started, which there was a block, whether it was a relationship block, whether it was the body. There's one client who, too much anxiety, was terrified, and her anxiety was so terrible that the thought of having a kid with her and her lovely husband, they were, so loving, and that's all he ever wanted was a kid, but she's like, no, I'm scared as fuck. And so just having healed from those attachment wounds and deal with all of the shame and the guilt, and she had tried everything, and boom, they're now like 6 months pregnant. And another client of mine who was going through a separation and was 42 years old, and she's like, I've been going back and forth in limbo for 3 years with this motherfucker, and now I'm ready to leave and create a healthy relationship and have a kid. And I don't give a shit. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to become the space and container to have a family, because I don't have much time. Well, guess what? She jumped in and committed to the process. She started with that overview experience and had her first kind of like epiphany. She then wanted to work with me privately. Sometimes some of you who are like hell-bent, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm ready to do this now. I want you to help me. We have a discovery call application where you apply, and then we get to meet you and we see, are you actually ready? Are you ready to invest the time, the resources? Are you willing to become your own hero? Are you just waiting for Prince Charming to come and save you and rescue you? Are you empowered and resourceful and decisive? Or are you just waiting for somebody else? You think somebody else is responsible for this? And there are certain criteria that get these results, that this 42-year-old entrepreneur within 3 months separated from husband, moved out, finances are being divided, but she met this amazing guy. They are all in. He's secure. They're secure. He's got his shit together, and they are about to have a baby. This is exactly what she wanted. It was like, whoa, within 4 months. Within 4 months. Anything is possible for your life if you commit to healing what it's really about. And your attachment style is not written in stone. I don't want you to run around like it's your badge of honor. Yay! Please, this is simply a window to healing, so that 6 months from now you can redo that quiz and go, I'm more of in a secure place. I'm the healthiest that I've ever been. So I invite you to join us and see what you would love to create. After you jump in, after you register, there's a little survey that you get to fill out that tells me exactly what it is that you want to create. Where are you at, and what would you love to create based on this conversation? What's in the way? And what happens is when I get this information, I can then curate the content to specifically help you. That's what this community is about. It's about helping, giving you the content to know exactly what work you're needing to do. And I'm not saying you have to do it with us, but this is what you need to do. It just so happens that in this community, we put it all together: the breath work, the nervous system regulation, clearing past resentments, giving you communication strategies, deepening intimacy, presence, understanding. All of that comes through the trainings because it comes through you. So this is what I love teaching. That link takes you there for our upcoming event on Sunday. Many in this community have already signed up. I'm super duper stoked to read what it is that you'd love to create. What attachment style have you been identified with? And are you committed to actually moving up the ladder to a more secure state, not for the sake of your relationship externally, but for the sake of the ability to look in a mirror and say, I love you? That's pretty much a beautiful reward in and of itself. Why? Well, the more you love yourself, the more that spills over onto the next generation. The greatest gift you can give your children is a self-loving parent. If you don't believe me, look at your upbringing and ask yourself, how different would my life experience be if my parents truly committed to the work of healing their own attachment wounds? That's why we're here. We stand for healed families. We stand for families coming together in connection so that the health of society, the health of your body completely changes when you learn these tools. And that's what this community is about. See you at the next perfect time.